Hello, everybody. Welcome to A Movement for Health, a community where we can share stories on hope, health, and harmony. And today, for our story time, we're privileged to have our guest, Coach Ali Canita. Coach Ali is a professional organizer, ICF-Certified Executive Coach, and mindfulness teacher. And today, she'll be sharing more about her journey with us and why space care is self-care. So let's see, no, let's take a look also how that has been going for her. So Coach Ali, hello, hello.
Hi, Kimmy. Hello.
Tell us more about your journey and becoming a space organization coach. So a professional organizer and decluttering coach.
Yeah, so I started in the marketing world, so in the surgery and hospital field. And then after 10 years of working there, I realized that I really also needed to move somewhere, but I didn't know what. So I got to start doing decluttering when I went back to my own experiences, because I didn't grow in a place where everything was always tidy. I grew up in a house where I was sharing it with my siblings, and it was always messy. I didn't have my own space. And the change there was when I had to move out of the house and live by myself in a different country. So the contrast um gave me a good realization that it has an effect in my mind space. It also has an effect with how I speak, and it also had an effect with my own stress levels. When I realized that, I suddenly just came across with KonMari, eventually applying it in my job. Funny because I was always fed up with so many things to do. So that time I was trying to take away things that I don't need to do, those things that are not sparking joy. And so that eventually gave me a lot of headspace, saying yes only to things that would really make me happy. And then eventually, when I went back, my space was still very cluttered. But when I went back, I didn't have enough space. I got into meditation then because I was really, really having a hard time fixing stuff, fixing my schedule, fixing the things that I'm putting my attention on. And I got into meditation. When I got into meditation, that's the time I got into decluttering, literally. Like when my mind was very clear, that was also the time that I was able to really let go of things that no longer support me, support my life stage and lifestyle. And so the things that I think about 50 balikbayan boxes, I had to make sure that I am able to curate my own new space because I was also going into another life stage from being just the two of us in the family to becoming three. Um, and so the things that I had to prune. I had to take away things that will not help me as a mom, and also that will not be contributing to our dynamics having a new child, a newborn. And so meditation, change in life stage, and so also change in lifestyle made me really trim down the things, and also realizing that I don't really need that much, and because of those things going on, and also really wanting to move into a new profession, that's when I realized I can actually do this. I can help people declutter. Um, Not because I'm OC, but because I went through it. And also putting in together things that really help me with decluttering the mind with meditation and mindfulness, dealing with overwhelm, me as an executive coach, and also as a professional organizer, really tackling things in the physical space, and putting it all together allowed me to do this as a new profession. But what really helped me, Kimmy, was meditation. Because things were getting settled in my head, the things in my spaces become also kind of settled or tidy or in order because it was all trimmed down to the most important things. So that's me. That's how I got into this journey. I had to go back to the things that really transformed my life and to be able to share it with other people.
I love how it's such a personal experience, no? And really that transition and those experiences really bearing fruit, no? And
Mm.
it's amazing how you would mention a lot about really asking what's most important and that the trimming it down and pruning, no? So amazing, amazing how it has turned out to be. And with across those years and throughout that journey, and especially also with the life stage transitions that you went through at that point, what would you say are your top three realizations over those years, no? Or top lessons?
I think that we tend to get too attached to stuff. The first realization, that's why personal realization was at that time I was always attaching my self-worth to what I wear, to what I own. Um and then when the pandemic also happened, when I also had to undergo transitions, it made me realize that stuff or possessions aren't really the ones that can define who I am. So that's the number one realization. Like I maybe a lot of us would have this compulsive pull to buy and consistently buy and um but that's because I guess a huge part of it is conditioning, right? And realizing that it will never end. It will really never end. And so finding joy in the simplest things by allowing myself to get detached to specific material possessions allowed me to be happier because I am able to now focus on things that really matter the most for me. So that's my top one, all about attachments. Number two, the connection between mind space and even the spiritual space, emotional space has an effect in physical space. Before I thought it was just space, but then everything is connected to everything else. And so the connection of that with because I also got to learn about feng shui. I'm not a feng shui expert. I got to learn about it, and that's when I also realized how everything is connected, with even in abundance and luck, with how we are able to take care of our spaces, and even how our own homes has an effect in the environment. So that's really my that's my number two realization. And number three, there's no single way. There's no single way to declutter. It couldn't be just we're following one person because she said so, that you can only have X number of books, or you cannot have too much of this and that. That's what I realized, that there's just no one way to declutter, and there's just no one way to organize. But what would really make it a very memorable or very meaningful, um, how do I say it, journey or practice is by starting with an intention. Just like everything else in our lives, even in goal setting, even in strategy or business, even in what we want to communicate, how we talk to other people, intention is very important. So even in decluttering and organizing, intention could help you find out what are the things that you would keep in your life. It would also help you decipher how to go about it. Are you going to start in your storage? Are you going to start in your bedroom? And so those three things really made me look at organizing and decluttering and organizing differently. And it's not just about decluttering and organizing, it's how I saw life in itself, because it's actually a lifestyle. So yeah, those three. First is yeah, do I have to summarize? But yeah, the first one is really being able to, what was that? The first one was all about attachments. Number two, was all about the connection between our mind space, spiritual space, and our physical space. And yeah, number three is just there's no single way. No single way to do things. My way is not the highway.
I love it, no? How it's really reassuring how you put it in that order also, no? That it
Mm-mm.
really starts with that non-attachment and seeing also and consistently asking, no? Parang, oh, what am I potentially attached to? And seeing then
Mm-mm.
how everything is connected to, diba, that mind space and how you also mentioned that earlier, diba, how meditation also helped you first clear your mind and then it's also connected to that space, no? And really going back to the value of intention setting.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I love how we're not just talking about space, diba? But it's really all about life and
Mm-hmm.
how I love it also, Coach Ali, when you mentioned about how it affects the environment, no? Kasi diba parang that also affects our health, no? How we are all interconnected. And it reminded me also of the title of the movie, Everything. Everything all at once. And I'm like, oh, oh, nga,
Yeah, it
all
is. It is.
interconnected. Thank you for those top three tips and realizations. And I find them also pretty actionable, no? Na parang those areas can be something that we can reflect on also moving forward.
Mm-mm.
And I'm curious, Coach Ali, no, through the years of discovering these things about organizing as well, what is a memorable experience that you feel continues to motivate you, no, in decluttering and in your mindfulness practice?
Yeah. So, well, I always have, whenever I have clients, whenever I have workshops, it's always memorable when you see people lighting up. Like, no, I never thought of it that way. Or now I'm so excited because I am blessed with a new perspective on how I would go about with my spaces. So that will always be memorable for me, especially because the advocacy is something different. It's not just about keeping things tidy um and then attaching success to it, but it's more of like being able to surround ourselves with the things that really matter to us and being able to really go back to what is of value to us, not of value for other people. Um in terms of my memorable experience, the memorable experience is that like when I had one in-home client and then we were able to do start the to change the to play the declutter the whole space, like, well, it's just the living room and the kitchen and also the dining. But she was like, "Oh my gosh, now I am able to go back to cooking because I have the space for it." So it's me always going back to what are you really making space for? So it could be something memorable for other people as well. Like in my first ever client, she was like, I never thought I could experience myself in my home as light as I could be. I never thought that I could do it myself. I thought that I would really need help. I thought that I would have to do it one time, big time. But going through this intentional decluttering, it helped me realize that I could really learn a lot in the whole journey of decluttering. And that I could also do it. So the empowerment, even just taking care of your space, realizing what are the attachments that you have, what are the beliefs that you have behind purchasing, constant purchasing during payday, etc. And all of these things that we are blinded from, or maybe we have a blind side to, being able to shed light on it would always be a memorable experience for me.
Yes, yes. And as you speak, no, that radiating light is also coming off. No? So thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for
Thank you.
sharing that light and those parang moments of empowerment, no, for your community and your clients as well. And maybe not, and that has been like the moments already of realization? How about at the beginning, no? Usually at the beginning or maybe even midway, no, along the way. What is a common challenge that comes up that you
I
would observe, no, when it comes to decluttering?
think a lot would say it's time because I'm too busy for this. I'm too busy for that. I don't have time to go through my stuff. And
Mm-mm.
even during the weekends, instead of decluttering, I just like to sleep. Because a lot of us are perpetually tired. Even if you're able to sleep at night, perpetually. So a lot of us, maybe some, of course, have been able to find balance at work, at home, and in personal lives. But a majority of us would feel like they're just perpetually tired because when you wake up in the morning, you have to do this until it's already almost evening. You just have to take care of what's going to happen the next day. And it's like, running and running in the same cycle every single day. So it's really all about time, the most common challenge. And the energy actually to do decluttering because people when they start they're always simply just overwhelmed. I don't know where to start or I don't know if I'm able to finish even. Yeah. So yeah, that's really the most common.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. And so if we relate, no, I would personally relate also to the two of those. So if we relate to that, we are not alone. Thank you for sharing, Coach Ali. And maybe no, as we go through the journey of organizing and looking at our space, what is something that you would say is maybe potentially tagged as ordinary that you feel is actually extraordinary?
Yeah, a place with the bare minimum, things that are essential, that's actually like extraordinary because the ordinary now is having places that are filled with stuff, right? So I call a simple place extraordinary because it gives you a lot of space for you to do things that are really important to you. It also gives you mind space because you're not constantly distracted with the things that you see in your spaces. It's extraordinary because it lessens your stress levels. Because studies show that the more stuff that you have in your space, the higher cortisol levels you may have in your body. And increase in cortisol levels, as we all know, is a sign of stress, right? And so I find it extraordinary. Most of the houses that you go to, it's always most of the time filled with stuff. So now it's ordinary before, but now it's extraordinary now. So it's like a shift in perspective when it comes to how do we really take care of our spaces. What do we put or what do we allow in our spaces? What are we allowing in our space to be occupied? Um So there, it's really having a space that would really take care of you. That's why I call it space care is self-care. Because right now spaces are meant for stuff, not for people. Spaces are supposed to be for people. Spaces, houses are supposed to be for people. It's just beyond the roof over your head and the walls around you for protection. But what is the condition inside is the one that also matters. So a simple space could be extraordinary at this time where everything is given to us in an instant.
I love it, no? That's such a powerful reminder of how that simplicity and that simple space goes a long, long way, or is actually, yes, as you've tagged it also as extraordinary. And so, yes, that's a beautiful invitation to take a look at as well. And right now, at this point, Coach Ali, I'm curious if you have a message that you would like to share to someone who is looking to begin, or maybe if they took a quick pause, like to continue their decluttering.
Mhm. Yeah, so start with an intention. You have to start with why. Why do you even want to begin? Because why would you want to put your energy, your focus, or your attention on something that's not really important? Especially if something is very challenging or difficult. Most of the time, we'll always say, na, oh, maybe it's not the time. But perhaps when you dig down deeper, why is it really important? Usually, the reasons why people start to declutter is because they want to have a better relationship with the rest of the family. It can go to that point where they always keep on fighting. Maybe the tensions are always high, but they don't notice it's because of the space. So perhaps it's really being able to create that good relationship with people around you, the members of the family, the household. Some people would say, I have been feeling tired, perpetually tired. And maybe because they didn't have enough space in the bed or in the bedroom. The bedroom is just meant for you to close your eyes, but not really be able to sleep or really rest because there are things that are not allowing you to rest in the bedroom. So maybe it's that. Just go deeper into why. And you'll just be surprised because the more that the why is clear, the want or the desire is clear, everything else will follow. Even the simplest step that you can do becomes clear for you because you know why you're doing it. So, and if you suddenly, suddenly just you're having this obstacle before you that you just can't seem to start again, just go back to why you even started, why you even want to continue, and then perhaps just going to give you a boost of motivation or even energy because the why is becoming clearer and more powerful for you. So it's really more of like a mindset shift rather than just a task a task list or something on your to-do list. So yeah.
I love it. And really having that intention to go back to and having it clear, no, for yourself.
Mm-mm.
And
Mm-mm.
thank you for that message, Coach Ali. And if we wish to also explore more ways of how we can go about our decluttering journey and organization journey and taking care of our space in order to take care of ourselves, where can the listeners and viewers reach out to you?
Yeah, you can head on over to my website. It's alicanita.com. You can also check out my Facebook, Align with Ali Canita, or in my Instagram, Ali Canita.
Exciting alignment journey ahead. And what are the initiatives coming up for you, Coach Ali, that maybe we can potentially support or share also with others?
So I always have public workshops. So there's I do public workshops for space care is self care. So it's intentional and mindful decluttering. I also do beginners class for meditation. It's called Ease Your Mind. And then periodically I run like a book drive. I just did for the month of March. It was for books to be given to Library Hub Philippines. The next one is in May. And the category that we're driving for um will be clothes for babies and moms. I'm also thinking of adding in clothes for those who will be graduating soon. So office clothes so that they have something to wear for their interview when they start to look for a job. So
I love it. And it's something that's creating that cycle of
mhm.
being able to and I would see in most of your posts, Coach Ali, and being a like that cycle of blessings also going
Yes,
around. And I love that, no, really being able to support each other, especially in those moments of transitions. And
yes,
recently also I just stumbled upon a post wherein the mom was sharing how she was so delighted about how hand me downs are available like within the family, but here really expanding that, no, because kids also grow up pretty quickly. So
yes.
that's such a lovely initiative. And we'll look forward to that, and we'll keep your links also in the description so that it's easily accessible. So
Yay, thank you,
yes,
thank
and
you.
as we slowly cap off this story time today, maybe if we can request for maybe one or two lines that you would like to share with our viewers today.
Yeah, so interesting. So you can, like, for decluttering, you can also opt to look at it in such a way that it's a cycle. And since it's a cycle, it's also a cycle of, actually it's not really just circle, it's like really more of spiraling up, right? When you see it that way, that there are things that you have already served you, that you can pass it on to somebody else who's just going through something that you used to go through before, and then it's more of like an upgrade. It's more of like there are things that you would need that are not there in what you previously had. And it's really all about creating space for the things that you need at this certain life stage or lifestyle that you are living. So when we see it in a way that is really more of like a cycle or a spiral, it allows us to be more ever giving and also trusting, because whatever we need will always be provided with. And with that, it will also help the environment, because instead of, like, you know, um allowing things to rot in our spaces, they suddenly, these things that we haven't used for a long time will suddenly have a purpose, and we'll be able to use back again. So we will see Mother Earth smiling because there are things that are being used again, giving life to again. And yeah, everybody will be happy because you're able to give, and the person who's receiving will also be grateful and would also be able to pass it on to other people who need it. So yeah.
Indeed. Thank you, Coach Ali. Such a beautiful message, and really keeping that in mind that there's that effect, no, not just cyclical, no, but also spiral, and
Mm-mm.
amazing how everybody can be able to upgrade, no,
Yes.
step by step. Yes.
Yep, yep.
So thank you for sharing your time with us today, and of course your expertise and your journey as well, as we explore how we can continue to go together as we go to move for health and really establish that movement for health. Really simple ways, no, and day-to-day techniques that we can integrate, no, into caring for our own health, and therefore creating also harmony in our lives. So
Yeah.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Kimmy. Time for the stuff to move around
Yes.
so that you'll be healthy.
We like to move it. Yes, yes, no. Looking forward to where it goes, no? Parang
Mm,
sometimes we're amazed by how also it moves around and
mm.
mm, mm.
Thanks, Kimmy. Thank you, thank
Thank
you.
you, thank you. So that's it for our episode for today, talking about how Coach Ali also has gone through her journey in space organization, and really also how mindfulness and meditation helped her there, and how she is able to empower others through executive coaching, also really integrating all of these principles, and how everything everywhere that are pretty much connected. So thank you everybody. Until the next episode.